All right, so I haven't used this camera in a while. Just been really busy, not really focused on video, doing other things, but I've processed a lot of information recently about this town, about my life. I've fallen into a really interesting experience for the past 5 or 6 months. A lot of growing, a lot of processing, and yeah, given the current climate and conversation, I should definitely say thank you for the people who have had my back and the people who support. I know it's not easy in this climate. It's not easy in this town. It's not easy with what's been happening in this country. And this town is, it's a very interesting town. It's the most interesting town I've ever lived in good ways, bad ways, full spectrum. This town has taught me a lot about myself in very interesting ways. Not a lot of things of not in good ways. I've had to fight for a lot of things in this town. And it's just interesting happening. A lot of people were like, why don't you just move? But I've been told my entire life, for the most part, to move somewhere else, that I don't belong here, that I should leave, that I should go back to wherever I came from, all kinds of things. So when people say, why don't you just leave, it kind of puts me in that state of mind. It kind of sounds like that to me. It sounds like go back to your country kind of scenario. And I know they don't mean that. Maybe they do. Maybe subconsciously that's just what they mean. But I think across the board, we're all pretty much in the same plane of we are tired of leaving, we're tired of being quiet, we're tired of being shut down, we're tired of being shut out, and we're going to stay and fight. A lot of the movements in this country, a lot of the current climate runs on that platform. But a lot like American history, we need the validation of a group of people that we've always need the validation for hundreds of years. Our movement is 500 years. And that those movements, those 500-year-old movements, have made progress, but not as much as you would think, and I'm not here to compare movements. I'm not here to downplay movements. I'm not here to say much of anything, because your movement's your movement. It's not my movement. I hope you have all the progress, and I hope that you raised out of the thumb of oppression. I hope that you're allowed to flourish, and I hope that one day that oppression is just a distant memory. I don't really have faith in humanity, so I'm not sure if that's going to happen, or if I'm not sure if that's going to happen, especially when colonization is a big part of my conversation. Trauma is a big part of everybody's conversation. Conditioning, all the things that go with that. And we seem to be a lot of movements seem to be navigating from their trauma and from their conditioning as we try to recondition, which is it's my argument with that thing is that scenario is it's not economically viable to recondition and decolonize. Ultimately, that's what we all want. Everybody. That's the common denominators. We want to decolonize. We might not realize that. We might not know that. We might not see that. We might not be that at that point of our conversation. But we want to decolonize. And what does decolonize mean? Decolonize means to reject all tools of colonization. And that also means the economy. And of course, you can take good things and from anything. Everything has some valid scenario, something that's of value and that you can take with it. But a lot of the things that we have inherited from colonization are toxic. The economy is one of them. It favors. It's conditioned our minds to raise up a certain individual and to be attracted to a certain individual, a certain construct, a certain system, all kinds of things. And I've been, thinking about this for a very long time. And how it affects me, and ultimately how to decolonize. And being the person that I am and where I'm from, I've realized that there's two, entities inside of me for the most part. There's a colonizer because of colonization, all the nasty, horrible things that have happened in colonization. And then there's the indigenous mind. And I felt very young. When I was very young, I felt, different. I know we all do. But I didn't really value the economy. I didn't really value the system. And it's easy not to when you're treated like an illegal alien. Living in South Carolina, they didn't care really much about me, where I was from. They didn't value my existence or my life or my experience. I was just an illegal alien, and I was profiled as such for a very long time, treated like an illegal alien, and treated like an outsider, like I don't belong. So one of my heavy triggers is when people treat me like I don't belong in a place, and I've reacted in this town to that aggressively, as somebody should, that's been treated that way for since 1995, since I moved into the South, and it hasn't changed living in Asheville. Asheville does the same thing. Asheville is doing a lot of work, but it's not doing a lot of work in places where it doesn't have the saturated culture to learn from that culture. So all their growth is theoretical, and when it comes down to my conversation, it's almost non-existent. And I say that because I can only speak for my experience and my conversation. And I'm sure they're lacking in a bunch of other conversations. This isn't a jab at Asheville. This isn't a jab at his culture. It's an awareness. Asheville's constantly the dominating faction is constantly bringing up that same subject in their experience, and they've forced it on me too. I remember I moved here and I was like, oh, different culture from what I'm used to. I want to know more about it. And I've had, the dominating group of people snap at me and treat me like a box that is not my box. That is not my experience. Meanwhile, talking about melanin cultures, full spectrum, and their trauma and their experience, and the difference, the lack of privilege. Meanwhile, putting those people to the same expectation and the same magnifying glass as privileged people. And it just is what it is, that's what happens when not your community runs the conversation. When somebody else is running the conversation, that like you're just not. It's like if men were running the feminist conversation, or non-femme-minded people were running the femme conversation, and they did for long parts of this country. And that's what this country is built on, a certain group of people running the conversation for everybody, nobody having a place in their conversation. And if you stand for voices like mine and so on, then first of all, I shouldn't need your validation for my voice. And that's one of the big problems with Asheville and Asheville culture and the current climate is Asheville wants to be the gatekeeper of your movement, of our movement, of a bunch of movements, and its dominance. And also, it looks a lot like a hippie love and light, version of what's been happening in this country for a very long time. And I have nothing against any of these groups. Asheville has a saturation, and I think that saturation doesn't have a lot of diversity. So I feel like it's definitely like a false flag scenario when there's a lack of diversity. It's hard for me to take it seriously, especially with all the problems I've had, and a lot of people who are like me have had in this town. And yeah, so when you don't have any diversity in your movement, and you're trying to encompass a lot of the conversations that aren't yours, and the words performative, start becoming a thing, hijacking all this stuff, and our people have been talking about these things. I think that integration was a horrible fucking thing. I think that it was a slap in the face to all melanin cultures. I think that being forced to navigate and regain culture and economy next to somebody who you're still validating your humanity to, and trying to, in a perfect world, yeah, all these things work. In a perfect world, desegregation and integration would have happened, and people would have healed their trauma and developed their culture and developed their economies and their own unique scenarios. But these things all happened in such a horrible time in American history, and to think that they would be effective by the problem is naive. We've seen melanin culture devoured by integration. Back pre-integration, or during segregation, you had, and I'm not saying that it was good. A lot of people in this town like to put words in your mouth. I'm not putting segregation on a pedestal in any way, shape, or form. It was a horrible fucking time. But you had melanin economy, and we know what happened to melanin economy, even pre-integration. America liked to bomb it and burn it and destroy it, and that's just their culture. That's just it's just what they do, and it's what they still do. They just do it in a different way, and Asheville does it in a very different way. I remember I went to a coffee shop a little while ago, Battle Cat, and they've got Black Lives Matters all over the place, and I went in there right after lockdown and asked the barista, who really doesn't have any part in any of this scenario. It's not their job, none of that stuff. And I was like, are there any? You have art everywhere here. Black Lives Matters posters all over the place. Are any of these artists black artists? And they were like, no. So that's Asheville. That's Asheville in a nutshell. And navigating this place and communicating to a lot of these people is like, honestly, we shouldn't have to communicate with the problem. Just like Asheville doesn't want to communicate with the problem. Asheville does not want to communicate with who they see as the problem. And that's rational. You shouldn't. Communicating to the problem stagnates your evolution in your experience, in your movement, in your And we know that. We know that's what that does. We've seen it for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years. We're very well versed in it. And yeah, but here we are. I've gone into places that, have like, we stand for you, posters and blah, blah, blah. And I've been profiled. I've been treated like an illegal alien because, again, they're performative, very performative. This town is extremely performative. And not to blanket everybody, because there's a lot of really awesome fucking people here, and by being as aggressive as I have been for the past, I don't know how many years, I've found these people. I've found these really fucking awesome people, and I've seen like homies like try to stand for me publicly. And then I've seen them take down their stand, and that's very smart. It's very smart because that shows you how hostile this town is. When you can't stand for the people that you put signs all over for, saying that you stand for them, it's a telltale sign. It's a gravitational anomaly of the truth. But they don't want to see the truth. The nature of the performative act is to make yourself feel better. And it's not to evolve. It's not to build. It's not to do your work. It's me. I feel good. This is for me. And all the posters in this town are a capitalist agenda. We want the consumer, we want the dominants to feel good when they come into this business. You are supporting something awesome. You're supporting progress, even when you're not. So yeah, I've learned all of that stuff and so much more in this town because I learned from stress. It's forced me to grow. It's fucking destroyed me. The person who moved here no longer exists. And I've had to basically kill myself over and over and over because I had to redevelop a coping mechanism, a narrative, all these things to navigate and not get got in a town that is extremely irresponsible with its words, with its actions. But yeah, like I've been extremely aggressive, as you should be, and they're really aggressive. They're extremely aggressive, and their movement shows a lot of signs of American past. Very bigoted, very my way or the highway. And melanin culture, as traumatized as we are, because we're traumatized and fucked up. And one of the difference between their movement and again, I'm not trying to blanket it, is I know my people are a problem. Chicanos in the LA area, we've done fucking horrible things. The LA area, we have the Crips and the Bloods, killing is, as much of our community as possible, but that's what happens when you're traumatized. And I mean, if you abuse a child, its entire upbringing, in horrible ways, and then you don't give it the tools to engage an economy, it's going to do what it can to do whatever. And the saying that if you haven't felt the warmth of the village, you will burn it. If you haven't been embraced by the village, you will burn it down to feel its warmth. And that's what we're experiencing in these ultimately ghettos. America loves the ghetto. Germany learned how to do what it did from America, and we know that. A lot of people might not want to engage that because they're coping, and they can cope. and we can cope too. I've seen a lot of melanated people, patriotic, putting this country on a pedestal, doing all the things, and I get it. You want to belong. You want to navigate an economy as best as you possibly can, so you assimilate. Stockholm syndrome. You do, whatever you can to make it through the day and have your family. You absorb Catholicism. You become a Christian. You vote for whatever broken system or treaty that and then you blame your people for making it worse. That's one of the things I heard when I was younger. All these Mexicans making it worse on the rest of us when we weren't even Mexican. Like, we were colonized by the American scenario, but we've been convinced that because we have brown melanin in our skin and that we have certain attributes that we are Mexican, but Mexicans are also a combination of indigenous people and Spanish and French and whoever the fuck rolled, whatever colonization scenario rolled into there. It just happens to share more melanin across the board because it was, I guess, more readily available. And America chose a different route. Kick all the melanin out. Trail of Tears, all those fucking things. All the things we very much know about, but there's no real reason for anybody to look into this abyss of information, especially if you want to go to work, if you want to have friends, if you want to play with everybody. Having these conversations puts you in solitude, puts you in a very alone place, where you basically become the unwanted kid on the playground, because people are coping and they want to live a happy life. They don't want to engage this dark information because it's very dark, that you are the product of colonizing rape is a very dark reality. That you are a post-colonization mutt is a very dark reality, and not a lot of people can sit with that. For some reason, I can sit with very dark truths, and they've fucked me up and traumatized me and done, whatever the fuck it is that they've done, and things that I know that I don't know, and so on. But yeah, I've experienced a lot in this town, and I've been canceled by racism multiple times in this town, because ultimately I've run across a reality and a truth that most engagements develop or rely on people willing or not willing to make excuses for individuals. And sexism and racism, I don't like the word racism, culturalism, melaninism, we're all one race. So saying racism is perpetuating the lie that we're multiple races. We're not. We're multiple cultures, and so on. But yeah. And if you are, a colonizing entity, you are more likely to make excuses for your fellow people, and you're not going to make excuses for the indigenous people you're colonizing. But also, you're an aggressive scenario, so you're not going to make excuses for people who think less or differently than you. And that's what I've ran into in this town. People have been willing to make excuses for other people and not make excuses for me, and I've seen it with other melanated people. I've seen people in the popular circles, because that's all it really is too, is a popularity contest. If you're loved and liked, people will make excuses for you. Oh, they didn't do that. I shot photography for somebody for a very long time back in the day, and this really drunk white girl bumped into me at a bar and then had me kicked out because she said I grabbed her ass. And this person that didn't even know me was like, he looks like an ass grabber. And they're basically profiling me. And honestly, like, nobody fucking knows what happened that night. But it's a scenario of people making excuses for you. And that's all it is. Unless you have, like, video of the scenario, and you have no idea, you're in your mind, you're like, it's a popularity contest. Who do I like more? Who do I like more in this scenario? Who am I willing to trust? What aligns with me best? And in that scenario, there was two strangers. Me, the stranger, and then this random drunk female that nobody even knew, but somebody who never met this person ever, but who vaguely knew and seen me, decided to profile me and not make excuses of me and say to my friend, person I'd poured a lot of energy into, person I'd gave a lot of photography and video and media to, that he looks like an ass grabber. No idea who I am. And the person who I shot for and did all the things, they showed me their body language, and they were like, well, in all my experiences, he seems like a good guy. And I kind of appreciate them kind of standing up for me, but they didn't. They really didn't. They I don't know if they realized it, but they showed how scared they were to even though I've known them forever. I knew them from relationships before. They'd been very close to me. We'd shared a lot of, and even with all the things we had shared, all the things we've been to get through, they still were scared. So I dropped them. I was like, cool, fuck you. I've had very, dark melanated people tell me that I need to respect white racism. Deleted them too. I'm not here for that conversation. If that's where you're at in your conversation, I respect it. You respecting racist, culturist, melanist humans is gonna get places. It's gonna get you arguably more progress than I'm gonna get not respecting these people. And I don't respect them, but I'm not going to disrespect them. I'm not gonna get in their space. I'm not gonna fuck with them. I just don't respect their vibration in my conversation, and I shouldn't have to, but because of integration, they're there, stagnating, and and also, like, I feel like I'm selling my soul and also I'm manipulating you. If I'm placating to you, while if I'm placating to you, and trying to get you pretend like you are worth something when I don't think you are, that's manipulation, and that's grooming, and fuck you. I'm not here to do that. You can see that as a negative, but that I don't want to manipulate you, and that I don't think that you have any space in my conversation, like I have no space in your conversation. You see that for whatever it is, however it is you want to see it. I don't care, and a lot of us don't care, and I'm hopeful. I want to build the melanin conversation in this town, to hopefully push you out of it, because you don't deserve to be in it. And not because I see melanin culture, like, we don't hate you. We don't want you dead. We don't want to hurt you. We just don't want you in our conversation. You don't deserve a seat at our conversation, unless we've invited you, especially given the 500 years of this country. But you have a lot of power, and you're going to continue to have a lot of power for a very long time, because that's where we're at in the taper of breaking away from colonization. So yeah.